Hello my dear students and welcome back to another live session here at ODA Class. Now kids, my name is Mitali Joshi and today I will be teaching you about the present perfect tense. Before we jump into that kids, let me give you a quick introduction of myself as well as ODA Class. Starting off with ODA Class, so as you might know students and parents, ODA Class is the most innovative live learning edtech app that you can come to. It is the best place that your child can come to learn from teachers who themselves are IITians and NITians. Now, we have launched a program specifically for you students called the Booster Course, which will start on Monday. This will be a week-long program during which you'll have 6 classes, of which you'll have 3 maths as well as 3 science. Now, like I said, these will all be conducted by our teachers who are IITians and NITians or have graduated from the top universities in the world. Now, apart from these students, I will assign you a personal mentor teacher who will be there with you to guide you throughout the week and answer any and all doubts that you might have. I'll tell you a little bit more about the course later after the video gets over. But first students, let me quickly introduce myself. Now, like I said kids, my name is Mitali Joshi. You can all call me Mitali ma'am. Kids, I graduated from Ohio State University, which is in Columbus, Ohio. And I have been teaching for almost 4 years now. So I'm pretty happy to be here with you students to teach you about the present perfect tense. Now, before we jump into that, let me just show you what this lesson will look like. Now, first students, I will introduce you to the present tense. I will talk about the simple present as well as the present continuous tense just a little bit. And then we will dive right into our present perfect tense. Now, I will teach you about the rules and when to use them, how to use that particular tense, and also we will solve lots of questions. Now, like I said students, a brief introduction on the present tense itself. We can divide the present tense into these 4 types. We have our simple present, present continuous, present perfect, and then we have our present perfect continuous tense. Now, in today's video, like I said, I will focus on our present perfect tense, but let me give you a quick introduction to the simple present and the present continuous tenses as well. Starting off with the simple present tense students, this is one of the easiest tenses to learn and there are 2 uses of this tense. First of all students, we use it to talk about our own habits. So any action that we perform habitually, and also we use it to talk about things that are universally true or something that is eternally true. So for example students, water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. This is true for everybody. And this has always been true, it will always be true. So that is why students, to state this particular fact, we will use the simple present tense. Similarly here, I drink coffee every morning. It's a very simple sentence students, and I am expressing a habit that I perform every day. So that is why I will use the simple present tense. Now moving on to our second one students, which is our present continuous tense. Now we use the present continuous tense once again for 2 things. The first one, of course, is to talk about ongoing actions. So, present continuous. An action that is continuous or ongoing in the present, we will use the present continuous tense. So, for example, my sister is singing a song. Now, the second use of the present continuous tense, students, is to talk about a plan or something that is going to happen in the near future. Okay? So, for example, I am visiting my aunt tonight. So students, clearly this action is not ongoing right now. It is going to happen in the near future. But this action has already been planned and it's going to happen. So that is why once again we can use the present continuous tense. Now students, to learn more about these first 2 tenses and to solve lots of questions, you can go back to my previous video on the present tenses and check that out, learn about the simple present and the present continuous tenses in detail. Because now kids, I will move on to our next one, which like I said is our present perfect tense. Now students, this is very simple. I will teach you the rules that we need to follow to form sentences in this tense, all positive or affirmative, negative as well as interrogative. And then I will explain to you the uses and then we can solve a few questions together. Now starting off students with what exactly it is, we use it to talk about something that has either already occurred but at an indefinite time. So something that has occurred but we do not know when it occurred. So for example, here students, we have met before. That's it, right? Here I am not talking about when we met this person or when I met this person. All I'm saying is that we have met before. Now the second use, students, is to talk about an action that already began in the past but has continued to be that way in the present time as well. Like I said, kids, I will elaborate more on these uses in a couple of minutes. But first, let's learn the simple rule, students, to form assertive or affirmative sentences in the present perfect tense. Now kids, in the present perfect tense, we make use of our auxiliary or our helping verbs has or have, depending on the subject. So students, the rule is very simple. We have our subject followed by the appropriate helping verb, either has or have, followed by V3 and then object. Once again, I will elaborate on V3 as well. But first, let's take a look at these two examples. I have read the lesson. So students, I, subject, helping verb have, read the lesson, which is our object. So here students, I am talking about an action that has already been completed. It has occurred before, but at an indefinite time. I am not telling you when I read the lesson, just that I have read the lesson. Similarly here, my sister has been to Europe. Once again students, subject, helping verb V3 followed by our object. My sister has been to Europe. Once again, a past action that occurred at an indefinite time. So now students, like I said, let me elaborate just a little bit on our V3. Kids, V3 is known as the past participle. Now I will soon do another video to teach you all about V3, but some simple examples here students are seen, been and eaten. So basically students, V3, also called the past participle, is the form of the verb that we need to use in the present perfect tense. So let's try a very simple question. A lot of the questions that we will do, students, you will need to use these three verbs or some very intuitive V3s, okay? So starting off with our first example here, students, can you tell me? Mallika and I blank friends since the 6th grade. Now once again here students, this is an action that started in the past but it is still ongoing, right? I have not said that we were friends. What I'm saying instead is that Mallika and I, this is the subject here. So let's follow it up with the appropriate helping verb, students. Because my subject here is plural, two people, I will use the helping verb have. Mallika and I have, and then we have our action verb be. Students, we know that V3, right, of this verb be is been. So I will say, Mallika and I have been friends since the 6th grade. I hope this is clear to you students, because now I will move on and I will explain to you how to form a negative sentence in the present perfect tense. Don't worry students, we will do lots of more questions on this and a lot of other concepts as we go along the video. So if you have any doubts, please put them for me in the comment box and I will answer them as soon as the video is over. Now, moving on to our negative sentences, students. As simple as our positive sentences, don't worry. All we have to do is add this word not between our helping or the auxiliary verb and our V3 and the past participle. So what we will do is, I have not read the lesson. The same sentence as before, students. All we have to do is add the word not between the auxiliary verb and our past participle. So similarly, my sister has been to Europe becomes my sister has not been to Europe. It's fairly simple, students, negating a sentence in the present perfect tense. All we have to do is add the word not between the helping verb and the past participle. So let's try, students. Let's try to negate this sentence here. I have lived in this apartment for 3 years. This is an affirmative sentence. I have lived in this apartment for 3 years. To negate this sentence, students, as we learned, all we have to do is add the word not right here. I have not lived in this apartment for 3 years. And that's it. We have negated our sentence. Now students, what if I want to form a question in the present perfect tense? So let me tell you students the rule for forming an interrogative sentence in the present perfect tense. Excuse me. Now this also students is fairly straightforward. All we end up doing is we have to move our auxiliary verb, right? Either the verb has or have to the beginning of our sentence, follow it up with the subject, and then we will use our past participle and then the object. So the same exact sentence students, I have read the lesson. What do we have to do? We take the auxiliary verb and we move it to before the subject. So I have read the lesson becomes have I read the lesson. Similarly, my sister has been to Europe becomes has my sister been to Europe. So students, I hope that this is fairly straightforward to you all. Let's try a question together now. He has been studying English since he was 5. Tell me kids, he has been studying English since he was 5. Remember, all we really end up doing is moving this before the subject. So once we do that, what do we get students? Has he been studying English since he was 5? Let's look at the answer students. Has he been studying English since he was 5? So notice students, all we ended up doing was moving this verb has to the beginning of our sentence. So we moved it to before our subject. Now kids, I hope this is all clear to you, because now we have learned the 3 rules that we need to know to form the 3 different types of sentences, in the present perfect tense. So now students, let's move on and let's talk about the uses of our present perfect tense. Now kids, as I mentioned before, the first use, is to talk about an activity that we have completed in the recent past. So for example here students, I have finished my homework for tomorrow. Now this is evidently something that has been done recently, but at the same time students, we do not know when I completed the homework, right? If I say, I completed my homework this morning, I am telling you the exact time when I completed the action, and that is why students, I will say I completed, which is the simple past tense. On the other hand here students, because I have not mentioned a specific time and because it indicates that it has been done in the immediate past, I will use the present perfect tense and I will say I have finished my homework for tomorrow. Now the second one students, like I said, is to indicate an activity whose time we do not know. So for example, my cousin has been to Russia. I am not telling you when my cousin went to Russia. All I am saying is that my cousin has been to Russia. Now students, let's once again, because next up we have a question, let us dissect our sentence itself. My cousin, here we have our subject, followed by the helping verb has, followed by the past participle been, and then we have to Russia. So students, let's try to follow the same exact rule and solve a question together now. Tell me here, how can I fill in the blanks over here students? I blank an alien before. And students, the action verb here is see. So remember, affirmative sentence or assertive sentence in the present perfect tense. What is the rule? Which verbs do I need to use in this blank to complete my sentence? Remember students, in the present perfect tense, after the subject, the first thing we do is use the appropriate auxiliary verb, either has or have. Now we know that with I, we use the verb have. So, I have, our action verb is see. Now we know that the past participle of this verb see is seen. So let's write down seen. I have seen an alien before. Now students, once again, as we read the sentence, I'm sure you can figure out that this is an action that has occurred in the past, but I have not mentioned the time. So notice students, every sentence that we do, try to figure out why are we using the present perfect tense, and also of course how are we using the present perfect tense. So students, we have tried a question now. Let's move on to our next use of the present perfect tense. Now students, the next use is something fun. We use it to talk about a past event, but when we are remembering this past event, to think of the consequences now. Okay, so for example here students, Mitali has eaten all the cookies. Now first of all, this is very possible. I do love my cookies. But notice students here, if somebody is saying this, it is probably because, they want to go and reach for the cookies. They want to have a cookie. But Mitali has eaten all the cookies. So notice once again, has eaten. We have our auxiliary verb has followed by the past participle eaten. So remember kids, this is our third use of the present perfect tense, which is to talk about or to remember or to describe past events so that we can bring to light the consequences or the present consequences of this past event. So let's try another question now students together. Tell me, after months of looking, she blank a nice apartment to rent. Now students, here the action verb is find. After months of looking, she blank a nice apartment to rent. Students, here our subject is she, which means we need to use the helping verb has. She has. And students, the past participle of the verb find is found. So, after months of looking, she has found a nice apartment to rent. I hope this is clear to you all students. Let me know if you have any doubts in the chat box below and I will help you out. Now moving on students to our next use of the present perfect tense. Students, our next use of the present perfect tense is to talk about an action that started in the past but is continuing in the present. So for example, I have studied German for a long time now. Once again here students, what am I doing? I am telling you that I have studied German for a long time now. I am not saying that this is over. I studied German when I was in the 6th grade. That is the simple past tense because that action is already over, right? On the other hand here, for a long time now indicates that this action might still be ongoing. So that is why students here once again, what I will do is, I will use the present perfect tense. Now let's see another example students and let's try to solve an example together of this kind of a use of the present perfect tense. Now here students, they blank for nearly 25 years. The action verb to be used is marry. Can you tell me what should I write here? They blank for nearly 25 years. Now students here, they, what I will end up doing is I will write they have been married. Here kids, notice this action started in the past but it's still ongoing, right? So that is why kids, here we will say they have been married for nearly 25 years. Now moving on to the next question here students, you are late. The class blank already blank. Here students, it's a little difficult or it's a little trickier or different because of this word already, which is being used between our helping verb and past participle. So tell me kids, how should I fill in the blanks over here? You are late. The class has. Notice the class is singular, so we will use the helping verb has. The class has already started. Is this clear to you all kids? You are late. The class has already started. That means the class has started in the past, but it's ongoing right now. That is why we use the present perfect tense. Let's try one more question together here students. She blank a bad cold for 2 weeks. And here the action verb is have. She blank a bad cold for 2 weeks. Here students, let's write it down. She has had. She has had a bad cold for 2 weeks. Now students, I'm sure that you have noticed we have been using these words, these two words specifically, for and since, quite a bit, right, in the present perfect tense. So students, let me quickly clarify the difference between these two words, because students often get confused between the words for and since. So let me explain this to you students. Let me tell you, for versus since. Remember students, we use for when we are talking about a period or an amount or a duration of time. On the other hand students, we use since when we are talking about a particular point in time. So for example, I have been waiting for you for 20 minutes. 20 minutes is a duration of time. It is an amount of time or it is a period of time. That is why here I will use for. On the other hand students, I have been waiting for you since 4 p.m. Students, 4 p.m. is a particular point in time, right? So if I am talking about 4 p.m., I will use since. I have been waiting for you for 20 minutes. I have been waiting for you since 4 p.m. Now I hope this is clear to you students, because the next few questions we will try to drill down on this difference. So let's try a few questions where you need to figure out whether we should use for or since. Let's try the first one students. Tell me here. My brother has been running every day, blank, he was 7 years old. What do you think students? My brother has been running every day, blank, he was 7 years old. Try to figure out students which word we need to use here. Now students, he was 7 years old. This is a particular point in time, right? This is not a duration of time. So that is why students here, I will use since. My brother has been running every day since he was 7 years old. Once again, let me repeat this students. Since he was 7 years old, right? This particular part is it's a point in time. It is not a duration of time. That is why we will need to use the word since here. Let's try one more question here students. Manan has been on holiday, blank, almost a month now. Tell me students, blank, almost a month now. Students, clearly, almost a month, this is a duration of time. It is a period of time. It is the quantity of time. That is why here we will use for. He has been on holiday for almost a month now. Now students, I hope that this difference between for and since is clear to all of you, because next up I will talk about another aspect of the present perfect tense which is often very confusing to students, which is when to use present perfect versus when to use simple past. Now kids, I hope that throughout this lesson I have been making it clear to you all the difference between present perfect and simple past. But in case you are still confused, which is possible students, listen up very, very carefully now. Like I said earlier students, the present perfect tense is used when the action started in the past but it is continuing now. On the other hand, we use the simple past tense students if the action started in the past and also got over in the past. That means if the action started and ended in the past and it is not continuing now anymore, in that case we can use the simple past tense. Now once again, let me show you a quick example of the difference here. Okay, Jesse has been friends with Corey since he was a kid. That means Jess and Corey are still friends, right? This action of being friends started when he was the kid, but it is still ongoing. On the other hand, this sentence here students, Jess was friends with Corey when she was a kid. Here students, we use the simple past tense because we are talking about an action that started and ended in the past. We are not indicating that Jess and Corey in the second sentence, we are not indicating that they are still friends. just that they were friends when they were kids. Excuse me. Moving on, students, now let me give you a chance to try to figure out whether we need to use the simple past tense or the present perfect tense in a few sentences. How long blank in this town? Try to figure out, students, is this a situation where I should use the simple past tense, or is this a situation where I need to use the present perfect tense? How long blank in this town, and the action verb, students, is live, or the main verb here is live. Now here, students, I will say, how long have you lived? Because kids, this is an ongoing action, right? There is no reason that I would assume that I don't live in this town anymore, right? Or there's no reason that I would assume you don't live in this town anymore. That is why I will say, how long have you lived in this town? Now, what about the answer here, students? Tell me. I am answering the question, how long have you lived in this town? And I say, I blank here 5 years ago. Can you tell me? I blank here 5 years ago. Students, here, my action or the principal main verb here is move. Now, of course, students, this action of moving, it started 5 years ago. And if it started 5 years ago, students, the action of me moving from one place to this town, of course, it got over as well. So that is why here, students, I will need to use the simple past tense. I moved here 5 years ago. On the other hand, students, if I want to use the present perfect tense, what I could do is I could say, I have lived here for 5 years. I hope this is clear to you all, students. Let's try another question now. The weather, blank great all week. What should I write here, students? The weather has been great all week. Let's try another question. Now, let's try the interrogative sentences. Tell me here. Blank blank you to the United States. Tell me, blank ever blank to the United States. Now, the verb here to be used is be. The subject to be used is you. Tell me, students, how should I fill in the blanks over here? Remember, we start our questions with the verb have or has. So, let's write it down. Have you ever, past participle, been to the US? Have you ever been to the US? And students, do you know what my answer is here? My answer is yes, I blank there in 2017 to pursue my education. Now tell me, students, in this sentence, should I use the simple past tense or should I use the present perfect tense? Yes, I went. Students, here, what am I saying? Yes, I went there. This is an action that has already been completed, right? So that is why, students, here I will need to use the simple past tense. Now, as I mentioned, students, yes, I blanked there in 2017 to pursue my education. This is an action that started and also ended in the past. So that is why I will use the simple past tense. Yes, I went. Yes, I went there in 2017 to pursue my education. Now students, I hope this is all clear to you because today we have covered a lot of ground, right? Excuse me. Today students, I taught you all about the present perfect tense. We learned that these are the 3 rules that we must follow to form sentences in the present perfect tense. For the assertive type students, we have our subject followed by the appropriate helping verb, either has or have, past participle object. To negate the sentence, all we do is add this word not between the helping verb and the past participle. And lastly, to form a question, all we do is move the helping verb, has or have, to the beginning of the sentence before the subject. Now, we also learned students about the uses, right? When exactly do we use the present perfect tense? First, to denote an action completed in the immediate or the recent past. Second, to denote an action or to express an action that occurred at an indefinite time. So an action whose time we are not aware of. Number 3, to talk about a past action or to remember a past action because we are thinking of its consequences in the present. And lastly, we use it to talk about an action that started in the past and has continued to be that way in the present. So now students, let me bring you back to our booster course. As I was explaining, I'm sure that you have all learned about the present perfect tense and are excited to learn a lot of more fun, exciting concepts like this one. So if you want to do that, students, you can enroll in our booster course, which as I mentioned is a week-long program starting this Monday. Now once you start, kids, you'll be learning from IITians, NITians and people who have graduated top in their universities. For a week, you will have 3 maths as well as 3 science classes. Along with this, students, you will have homeworks every single day and 2 tests. Now, what of the doubts that you will absolutely have as you go through the classes and the tests and the modules? I will provide you a personal mentor teacher who will be in touch with you throughout the week to answer any and all doubts that you might have. So students, to enroll in this course, all you have to do is click on enroll now and complete your payment of rupees 29, 49 or 99 depending only on your grade. Go ahead and enroll now. There is also a link in the description box below which you can use to enroll in the booster course. Now I hope to see you there, students, for multiple reasons, and one of them being I really want you to enjoy learning, and one of the ways that we help you do that is through rewarding you. So students, on the ODA app, as we were all solving questions right now, on the ODA app when we solve these questions, students, you all are rewarded with certain coins. Now we call these our ODA coins, right? And once you have enough of our ODA coins, you can go ahead and redeem them for exciting things. I have an ODA water bottle. Some students get the water bottle, some get a smartphone or even a speaker. Lots of exciting chances and lots of options for you all, students. So go ahead, enroll in the booster course, and I hope to see you there. And also kids, if you have enjoyed this video, if you have enjoyed learning with me, go ahead and like and share the video, and also subscribe to the ODA Class channel so that you don't miss any of our future videos. I hope to see you in the booster course, students. Thank you all. See you there. Bye for now.